I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. The National Development Party was formed in 2008, motivated by the belief that there was no clear vision or plan for the development of the Bahamas being articulated by either of the established political parties. Their view was that many of the country's problems were clearly due to the emphasis on partisan politics rather than nation building. One of the primary philosophical beliefs was that the party needed to focus on the philosophy and not the cult of personality, and on political ideology instead of political idolatry. The party hit the national scene during the 2010 Elizabeth by-election. Then chairman of the executive steering committee, that is, Dr. Andre Rollins, carried the party's banner and lost the race, having polled only 72 votes. Not long after, he would relinquish his position on the steering committee. Well, in February, he formally joined the Progressive Liberal Party. Renwood Wells then emerged as the party's new leader, but a mere 3 months later, Wells and 9 others would also defect to the PLP camp. On this edition of the Sawyer Report, we're going to discuss the future of the party with the members of the executive team. Joining me in studio tonight, Mr. Lyndon Nairn, he's the interim leader, as well as Mr. Theophanis Kochina-Magoulis, who is a member of the Executive Council. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you for having us, sir.
Thank you for having us.
I want to first of all ask, what has the NDP been like in the past several months? You would have lost your leader in Andre Rollins back in February. Well, he left the steering committee shortly after losing the by-election. He would have left the party officially in February, joined the PLP. Not long after that, you have Renwood Wells and 9 other members who have left. What has been really the temperature within the NDP over these past few days?
Well, I think certainly, as you indicated, Dr. Rogers left the party quite some time ago and was in fact not very active. Certainly Renwood Wells did an excellent job, I believe, in steering the party during the last 12 months or so. However, Renwood, having considered things that were personal to him, decided that it was in his interest, in his best interest, to leave the party and to join the PLP. He and 9 others, as you indicated. However, the majority of us remain with the party. That is the majority of the Executive Council, and that is quite simply because we see things quite differently. We believe that the challenges that existed when the party was formed, in fact, they exist today. As a matter of fact, they are more overwhelming. We are more purposeful. We are more determined, and we believe that this ought not to be an effort of expediency, but this ought to be a matter of principle. And that is the route that we are on today, and that is how we will continue. We are excited about where we are. We are eager to get our message out, and we are excited about the prospect of introducing the Bahamian people to the many brilliant young minds that comprise the National Development Party.
You've raised some good points, I'm sure, and they're in response to quite a few questions that have been raised about the existence of this party and the continued existence of it. I want to feature a clip, some words that were given to the press by yourself and other party members shortly after Renwood Wells and his crew decided to join the PLP. I want us to listen into what you had to say. Really, I think it was about a day later after the news hit. Let's listen in now.
Just 48 hours prior, a vote was taken concerning joining the PLP, and there were only 3 abstentions. So it was very surprising to learn that 10 individuals were in fact on that vote.
Men cast the ballot, but the ultimate decision is through God, and that is my belief. And these things must happen. There's no rule that says they who may have begun with you will be there at the end.
I remember when I first read that Wells and others were leaving the party. The question that first came to my mind is, how can they continue having lost 2 major figures? I want, first of all, address how you are able to continue with such incredible losses at this point?
Well, I think, one of the, perhaps one of the failings of the National Development Party is that until now, we have not introduced the public to the depth and the breadth of our bench. The reality is that today I am privileged to lead this party, but the fact of the matter is that there are men and women who are as qualified, as articulate, indeed even more so. And I am humbled, in fact, to be in this position at this time.
What happened? That's my question. What happened to cause these defections from the party?
I think really, the reality is that what we are engaged in today is in no stretch of the imagination a simple or an easy matter. The fact is that we are coming up against an entrenched culture, political culture. We have two significant political giants, and they certainly are battling as they have never done before. At the same time, there is a new player in the mix who, for all intents and purposes, persons view him as the 800-pound gorilla, if you will, as far as alternative parties are concerned.
You're referring, of course, to Brandon McCartney.
I'm referring to Mr. McCartney. And so the question in everyone's minds, those in particular who were not as close to the NDP as some persons were, wondered, are these persons able to survive in this context, okay? Will they be able to attract the number of candidates and the resources that are necessary in order to wage a battle? And this will be a battle. And I think having considered all of the circumstances and given some of the practical issues that Mr. Wells faced, I believe he made a decision which he discussed with me, and I was aware at the time that he was considering, and I knew that he had made a decision even before he advised others. Of course, I sought to dissuade him, but I understood why he made the decision that he did. I think that it was not the right decision, but he has my utmost respect. I believe that he has, if he were to stay around party politics for several more years, I believe that the Bahamian people will hear about him. He's got an incredible mind, a lot to offer, and it is my hope and expectation that when he lands, because there will be a fall, that when he lands, that he lands on his feet.
Theo, why did you stay? Why not go?
Why did I stay? I became involved in the NDP, the National Development Party, very early on when the meetings were being held at the Uriah Markfee, I think it's the Uriah Markfee School in Engliston. At that time, I sort of got an appreciation for who the leadership at that time was. I did not have the confidence that these people were the kinds of people that I wanted to lead me. And that was my personal experience, having met the individuals who are no longer now with the NDP. I got involved on the finance committee, and during that involvement, I maintained a somewhat of a backseat to the actual activity that was going on between in the executive on council. Now that we have our leadership now in the hands of Mr. Lyndon Nairn, I see somebody who I feel that I can put my energies behind. I believe that Mr. Nairn has a clear idea of what he believed the Bahamas ought to be. And so I am here not only because I believe fundamentally in the philosophy and the ideology of this party, and I wish to reiterate that. And that is because we have stated, and we state again, that this is an institution. But here is a person who I believe holds that ideology and that philosophy. And in doing so, I feel that I can put my energies behind him to see this party go from higher to higher.
So you really, from early on, realized that in an Andre Rollins and in a Renwood Wells, that these were not the leaders of the party, but yet you stayed on?
I stayed on because I believe in the ideology and the philosophy of this party. I believe that that we have issues relating to solving problems in this country. I believe this party is attempting to look at those problems and is attempting to galvanize individuals of like mind and hearts towards solving those problems. And so for that reason, I am in this party.
What do you see in a Lyndon Nairn that you did not see in an Andre Rollins and in a Renwood Wells?
I think fundamentally, I think Lyndon Nairn is a person who has convictions and a kind of integrity that I can appreciate. There may be integrity in the other gentlemen who have left, but the kind of integrity that I can appreciate in a leader, I find in Mr. Lyndon Nairn.
Do you think they betrayed the party?
You know, I'm not going to respond directly to that. I would say I believe that a man needs to engage his own conscience. And I believe the more significant question is whether they betrayed their consciences. The reality is that they opened themselves to us 3 years ago, as you rightly said, and they said, here is my conscience. And today it would appear that the circumstances that they find themselves in suggest that they are at war with their consciences.
And what do you think, or how, for the most part, have your supporters responded to this?
Supporters as in...
people who support your party, your movement, people within the organization.
I believe what I've seen essentially for the most part, and given that I'm fully engaged in a business outside of being involved in this, I've seen new faces emerge, individuals who I had never met before, who are committed with ideas and with a passion for this country. And so this is what I have seen emerged under the leadership of Mr. Nairn. And I am engaged in this process, and I'm looking forward to this fight that we're going to have for the hearts and the minds of Bahamian people towards a new Bahamas.
And I think, and if I were to add to that, I would say, listen, the reality is that what we are about in the National Development Party is creating a context for like minds to just galvanize around the ideas and the principles of the party. We believe wholeheartedly that this country needs to be rescued. We think that this country is on the brink, and all of the evidences point to that. Whether it is education, whether it is crime, whether it is our judiciary, and the list goes on. The fact of the matter is that those who currently lead us are failing. There's no other way of stating that. And those who are minded to jump on those bandwagons for whatever their personal reasons are, we bid them all the best.
Gentlemen, we're going to take our first break in the show. I know you want something else. You have something else to add, but we're going to pick that up once we come back. Stay with us. Our discussion with executives of the NDP will continue on the Sawyer Report right after this. Welcome back to the Sawyer Report. Tonight we're speaking with officials from the National Development Party. When we went into the break, really, we were discussing sort of what the NDP has been like post Andre Rollins and Renwood Wells. Andre Rollins left in February, announced his intention to join the PLP. At that time, I was fortunate enough to have him as a guest on the show. I want you to listen into what he said. And I questioned him about leaving the NDP to join the PLP. I want us to listen in, and then we'll pick up our discussion from there.
I'm going to make a decision to join one of these major parties. It has to be based on principle. I may have been in error in the past in thinking that the best way to go about it was through creating an entirely new political entity. But if I'm going to now abandon that idea because of all of the realities that exist on the ground, it has to be not about Andre Rollins. It has to be that this political organization that I am going to join is so close in its concept of formation, so close in its founding principles and ideals, that it would be a natural fit between what I seek to accomplish in politics through my past involvement with the NDP and what I now hope to achieve in my new involvement with what I decided